Hello, I'm Dr. Amy Shah, and this is another episode of the Save Yourself podcast. This one is one you don't want to miss. It's don't make these mistakes in perimenopause. So I make these little talks for you. This is going to be about 30 minutes or less. And I'm going to go through all the things, all the mistakes that people often make in perimenopause. And then I'll just also describe to you what perimenopause is so you know if you should be listening to this video and podcast. I just wanted to thank you all for watching and listening. I know that so many of you have been downloading and rating the podcast. I'm so grateful for you. Please share it. Please leave your review. Please check out Amy MD Wellness, where you can find my chai protein, the chai latte. Check out my Instagram. It's at Dr. Amy Shah. I am so excited to meet so many of you on my speaking engagements all across the country. I've been traveling a lot, and it's been so rewarding to see so many of your faces in real life. So thank you so much, and let's get into it. You should be listening to this if you're between the ages of 35 and all the way up to 55 to 60. Okay. This, my friends, is a phase of life that is often forgotten in the medical field. It's called perimenopause. What does perimenopause even mean? It means the months and years before the end of your menstrual cycles. So menopause is when you've had 12 months with no period, and that's considered you are now in menopause. Perimenopause is everything that comes before it. So it's this 10 years or more of roller coaster type symptoms. So I'll describe what it is. So the biggest mistake, number one, is not knowing that you're in perimenopause. How many times have I talked to someone who says, well, I'm not in menopause. And I said, yeah, but you're in perimenopause. And they said, I'm not in perimenopause. And then I asked them a couple questions, and they are absolutely in perimenopause. And so I'll go through those questions with you. That's the biggest mistake, is not recognizing it, because when you recognize it, it explains a lot of what's going on, and then we can get into what to do about it, right? So this is a primer for those of you who want to know, or maybe even for sophisticated people. I'll go into a couple of tips that could be helpful. So let me explain in visuals what's actually happening. So imagine when you get to the end of the toothpaste tube, like the traditional toothpaste tube, and you're rolling it up and you're getting to the end. And one squeeze, you get a full squeeze. That means, your hormones are fully coming out. The next squeeze, you get a splatter. And so that's perimenopause. Typically, you get a splattering of hormones, so you get some symptoms. And then the third squeeze, you'll get nothing, just like a pop, and then nothing, right? So that actually is, you'll have full-blown symptoms that month. So every month can be really different. And as you get closer and closer to the end of that tube, meaning as you get closer and closer to menopause, the symptoms really accelerate. And there are more months where you're getting no hormones, so you're having a lot of symptoms. So I hope that helps. Now, one mistake I see all the time is not recognizing this. So I'll tell you the story of my mom, and she told me this, and I remember this because I was going through it, watching her go through it. So she was having symptoms of insomnia, and then she was having symptoms of anxiety and palpitations. And then separately, she was having symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome. And then separately, she was having symptoms where she had joint pains. And separately, she was having symptoms of weight gain. And then separately, she was having night sweats, and separately she was having hot flashes. She thought her body was going out of control, that her mind was completely out of control. Like, she's like, why is my body falling apart? Why is my mind falling apart? She couldn't understand. I remember her making concoctions every night to go to sleep, like rice with milk and all these like Indian remedies to help her sleep. She would try all these things for anxiety. And of course, she thought they were completely unrelated. And when she went to the doctor, they also said, oh my gosh, we should send you to cardiology and get a Holter monitor for the palpitations. So she did that. Oh, we should send you to ortho to check out your carpal tunnel and your joints. So she got this like brace for her carpal tunnel. And then they were like, you should probably try something to calm your anxiety. You should try some medicine for that. And I remember her saying, like, I feel like my body's out of control and I'm going crazy. And now when I look back at that, I'm like, oh my God, she was in full-blown perimenopause and nobody told her. Nobody told her what was happening to her body. She just literally thought like, oh my God, my body is going out of control. Like she felt so out of control. And I just want to share that story with you because that is so sad in our society that we, like 50% of our population goes through this phase that is like a huge part of our life and nobody could tell her that that's what was happening. Because even if you didn't have all the solutions, even if you could just tell someone like, hey, this is what's happening to your body, that itself empowers you, right? That itself tells you like, okay, this is why it's happening. It's because my hormones are on this roller coaster and maybe I can do some things to stop it. So that is the number one mistake, is not recognizing that you're in perimenopause, and it's not your fault if you hadn't recognized it, because most of society doesn't know what it is. And so it's really difficult. I'm so happy that there's so much awareness on social media, on, with OBGYNs now, and there's a lot more talk about menopause and perimenopause, more about menopause. And I wish, like, I want to start the conversation about perimenopause because, or join the conversation about perimenopause. I just think that it is a time where nobody's telling you what's happening to your gut, to your hormones, to your brain, to your muscles, to your bones, to your heart, and someone needs to tell you. In fact, there was a study that showed that between the ages of 44 and 67 is the time that you can do interventions for the brain and actually have some modifications in your outcomes. If you wait till you're very old, like 67 in this case, the interventions aren't really useful anymore. So meaning that in your 40s, you want to start to do things for your brain, walking, socializing, puzzles, good nutrition, because the interventions at that time is going to make the biggest difference in determining your future disease like dementia. The next mistake I'll talk about is not knowing what the symptoms are in perimenopause. So the first mistake was not knowing if you're in perimenopause. The second mistake is not knowing what symptoms might be associated with perimenopause. So I'll read out some of them. Irregular periods, so cycle length and flow can vary. Night sweats and hot flashes, so sweating, flushing, warmth, especially at night. Heavy bleeding, because you have a reduced progesterone levels, and often a thickened uterine lining. Mood changes like stress, irritability, depression, sleep disturbances, difficulty sleeping, or like night sweats causing difficulty sleeping, vaginal dryness, memory and concentration issues, changes in libido, muscle aches and joint pains, carpal tunnel syndrome, and so much more. So these are some of the symptoms that you may not even realize that you have. And when you put it all together, this is perimenopause. That's why I mentioned my mom's story, because now looking back at it, I'm like, oh my God, everything she was experiencing was classic perimenopause, but she didn't know it. So knowing your symptoms in perimenopause is so useful, because once you know that they're related to your hormones, you can do things to alter that. What am I even talking about? So when you talk about hormone health and we talk about changing your life, I would say that nutrition, especially to improve gut health, and exercise, lifestyle measures, and potentially hormone therapy when you're late in perimenopause or in menopause can be really useful in helping with these symptoms. Most importantly is the nutrition piece, because when you change your gut, you change your hormones. And that is such a mantra that I keep saying to myself, because I know that as I improve my gut health, my hormone health will improve. That's really empowering to know. Third mistake in perimenopause is not knowing what to do about it. Now, this is a huge black box because nobody tells us what to do about it. Nobody even talks to us about perimenopause. I didn't even know the word perimenopause when I was in my medical school and training journey. And I think that's a problem, obviously, because how are you supposed to know what to do about it if nobody around you knows about it, even doctors, and nobody tells you what to change? So this is a real big problem in our society. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, yes, now I know I'm in perimenopause, to yes, I know which symptoms I have that could be attributed to perimenopause. And then number 3, what are you going to do about it? Like, not knowing what changes to make is one of the biggest mistakes that you can make, because you're suffering in silence. You're suffering without any kind of intervention. Half the reason I think I feel better in perimenopause now is because I'm taking action towards changing those things. So not only are the actions changing it, but also the act of taking action. Do you know what I mean? Like, the act of actually taking action creates a placebo effect and improves your mood and your motivation. Up to 20, 30% of improvement in symptoms can just be placebo effect because you feel empowered and you're doing something towards your health. It's like the placebo effect is classic, like a sugar pill that people are taking, but they believe that it's working. It can work up to 30 or 40% in some cases. So very, very important to feel empowered, right? So here's what you can do in perimenopause if you're trying to look for solutions. Number 1, like this should be number 1, 2, and 3, actually. Nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. Nutrition will change your gut, which then will change your hormones. Nutrition will change your brain, which then will change your hormones. So nutrition is the number 1 thing I would change or modulate in perimenopause. I always say, if you do what you've always done, if you eat what you've always eaten, you cannot expect improvement of your symptoms in perimenopause. The same routine that used to work for you in your teens and 20s, and even early 30s, is not going to work for you in perimenopause. You can't skimp on the sleep, have tons of caffeine, have tons of alcohol, do these high intensity workouts to the excess every day, have stimulating, stressful conversations right before you go to bed, and then expect your body to be able to tolerate that stress the way it used to be able to tolerate it. So one of the biggest things in perimenopause is recognizing that your body's changing and to take action towards it. So nutrition, nutrition, nutrition is number 1, 2, and 3. How would you change your nutrition? 30-33 is one of the first steps I talk about. 30 grams of protein in your first meal, 30 grams of fiber throughout the day, 3 servings of probiotic foods almost every day. So 30-33, this can improve your gut health, which in turn improves your hormone health. And remember, mood, energy levels, hot flashes, all of that can get better when you change your nutrition, change your gut health, changes your hormone health. So one of the next things besides doing the 30-33 is considering supplements, or not supplements even, just adding more of these things to your diet. Magnesium, 550 milligrams a day has been shown to improve brain health over the years. But that's looking at dietary magnesium. But if you want a supplement, you might want to consider magnesium glycinate. It's a magnesium bound to glycine, about 200 milligrams before bed. And magnesium threonate before bed is also really great. And so these are things that can also, the magnesium glycinate can help lower cortisol, can help boost serotonin levels. And so that can be a really nice addition. Eating higher magnesium foods, beans, nuts, leafy greens. These are things, dark chocolate. These are things that are high in magnesium. Pumpkin seeds. So you want to increase the magnesium in your diet. The other thing is omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids can help reduce inflammation and help you during this transitional time. There's some good data around that. You want to get about 2 to 3 grams a day in your diet. You can supplement if you'd like. I like vegan DHA because I feel like a lot of people don't like that fishy smell. And the vegan algae DHA actually comes from the source. Like that's what the fish eat to get the omega-3. So vegan algae DHA is something you can add. Or if you're eating a ton of omega-3 rich fish, then you don't have to worry about any supplements at all. And then number 3 is vitamin D. If you are deficient, which 90+% of the people I check are deficient, then you should be supplementing with the vitamin D. So those are the supplements. That's the food. Now, sleep is absolutely essential during perimenopause because, listen, you have disturbed sleep during perimenopause. You might have night sweats, hot flashes. You might have bathroom breaks. You might have sleep disturbances in general. So you really want to improve your sleep quality, maybe increase your sleep quality and have a regular sleep schedule if when you're in perimenopause, and don't feel guilty about it. I think many years ago, I felt very guilty about sleep because I thought that was, something that people who aren't motivated or people who are lazy do, right? But the more I learned about perimenopause, the more I learned is like you have a hormonal reserve that you have to refill every night. Like you need to have rest for your gut and brain and hormones so that they can get ready for the next day. And you cannot do that on less than 7 hours of sleep. So 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. If you look at the highest performers in the world, they sleep a lot. And I think perimenopause is literally like your body needs more sleep than you think. The next thing is sunlight. Lots of sunlight, including exercise outdoors. So if you can be like me and be that crazy person who's like walking aimlessly outdoors with their phone, amazing. Take your calls outside, meet your friends outside. I mean, the more time you can spend outside, like up to 1 hour a day, total pieces. Like if you do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and then a 40-minute walk, you got your 60 minutes. You know what I mean? That would be the goal. Obviously, I travel a lot. I'm in meetings a lot. I can't always get that, but that is always the goal. The days I get that, my day is just better, and my hormones, my gut, my brain, my mood, I can feel it. The studies support that. Nature time is an anti-anxiety. It brings your cortisol down. And one of the biggest things that are happening during this perimenopausal time is that your cortisol levels are at baseline higher because your estrogen usually helps regulate those cortisol levels. And as your estrogen is kind of all over the place, so is your cortisol. So sleep, sunlight, exercise is the biggest one, besides nutrition, that I would say to focus on 10,000 steps or 7 to 10,000 steps or equivalent of. So if you're not doing steps and biking or swimming, dancing, whatever it is, movement wise, so that you can get more circulation, you can get those gut bacteria to dance. Yes, they are literally creatures that dance when you exercise, and they produce anti-inflammatory compounds when you do that. These gut bacteria are also the ones that regulate your hormones, so you really want them to be happy, right? So that is another strategy to really improve yourself in perimenopause. Lastly, I guess it's 2 things: mindfulness and spending time with positive people. Remember that women in particular, and in perimenopause in particular, will benefit from a community or another friend or spending time with friends. It's called the female friendship effect. That's what I call it. It is a way to improve your health in perimenopause. You lower cortisol, you boost oxytocin. Often if you're spending time with them, you're releasing stress. You're laughing. All of those things actually are biggest contributors to longevity, but also to the health in perimenopause. And find those positive people, because you share gut bacteria with those positive people, and your hormone status, your brain, your mood status is going to mimic the people you spend the most time with. So really find those positive people, especially during perimenopause. And then lastly, mindfulness. Listen, if there was any time in your life that you picked up religion or spirituality or, mindset work, breath work, whatever it is, it's during this time. This is the time that your body needs it the most. You're experiencing a roller coaster of hormones. You're experiencing high levels of cortisol. You're experiencing changes often to your weight or to your body composition. You need to work on mindfulness so you can have some stillness, some time to process emotions, some time to, get yourself balanced again, this is so important. If you haven't started it yet, religion or mindset work, meditation, breath work, this is the time. This is going to make a huge difference in your life to make that mindset work a priority. So I think we covered it all. It's been about 30 minutes. I've gotten through less than 30 minutes. I've gotten through a lot of perimenopause. So biggest mistakes you're making is not knowing that you're in perimenopause. Second is not knowing the symptoms of perimenopause. The third one is not knowing what to do when you're in perimenopause. Now, listen, I didn't talk much about hormone replacement therapy. I think there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of people out there talking about it. I'm a big fan. If you are, especially when you get to the end and you've done everything right and you're getting to the point where your hot flashes are really bad, the vaginal dryness is really bad, or your osteoporosis, your bone density is very bad, those are clear indications. If you're not there and you want to do these lifestyle, nutrition things to get you feeling better, that might be enough to actually improve how you're feeling. And, you know, when I talked about the exercise, I didn't really talk much about muscle training, but that's definitely something that you need to add. It's like 2 times a week resistance training to help with the muscle and bone loss that happens during perimenopause. But other than that, I think that we pretty much covered all the different, a couple of different bases. Of course, this is not complete. This is more of a kind of rapid fire guide to getting your symptoms under control. Now, if you want to dive even deeper, you should check out my new book that's coming out. I just finished writing it. We just made kind of expanded on all of these concepts. Very excited to share it with you soon. There'll be bits and pieces coming out as we go through time, because guess what? No one tells you how to eat during perimenopause. No one even tells you what it is. No one tells you how to manage your lifestyle. You need a guidebook. And I felt like there's enough science to support a lot of the things that I'm saying. And there's no better time. And, you know, honestly, I feel like I've been talking about this for years. And so I feel very good about sharing this information. I've seen so many people improve with that. So with that, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to encourage you all to do some of these tips. Get back to me, leave a comment, let me know how things went. And until next time, thanks for listening and watching.